So last year, I was a little bit burnt out. I'd built my business to the point where we had a small team. We were doing about $500,000 in revenue, but something felt off. And I decided that I was going to take a month out of my business. Now, I think something interesting happens when we're able to totally switch off our business. When you can actually switch off and come back to it with a fresh perspective, you start to see things that you just didn't see before. And I've actually seen it work a lot on my clients. For people that are burnt out, feels like everything is going wrong. They're losing this client, this team member's sick, like, oh my God, the whole thing is falling to pieces. The truth is that is the best time to take a holiday. So the first thing that I did that allowed me to take a month off is welcome to another episode of the Creative Courage podcast. My name is Matt Essam. If you're new here, this podcast is all about growing a financially rewarding and creatively fulfilling business. Today, I want to talk to you about why I took a whole month out of my business, what it gave me, and why I think you should as well. So last year, I was a little bit burnt out. I'd built my business to the point where we had a small team. We had about 30 clients. We were doing about $500,000, just over $500,000 in revenue. Life was pretty good, but something felt off. And the way that I had built the business meant that I wasn't getting that much downtime. I wasn't getting that much headspace to really think about what felt off. And I decided that I was going to take a month out. I was going to take August out of my business. My cousin was getting married in Germany, and so I was going to take the month off. I was going to take some trains from the UK through to Germany, do a little bit of interrailing, as I'd never done that before, and just switch off and see what came up for me. Now, a lot of people were like, oh my God, what a privileged position to be in. And at the time, I didn't feel particularly privileged because I knew that there were going to be quite a few repercussions from that. We paused all of our client payments. So this wasn't like I just went off and the team carried on running the business. We paused all our client payments. We said to our clients, hey, we're taking the month off. Don't worry, there's going to be no payments coming out of your account. And for those of you that want to carry on working on what you're working on, we're going to build a plan for you so you know what you're doing. So it took a bit of preparation. But that month taught me so many things. And it was so beneficial for me that I decided to do it again this year. And this year was a little bit different because I knew in advance that it was coming up. I was able to prepare for it a bit better. And it really felt like a reset for me. Now, I think something interesting happens when we're able to totally switch off our business. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm running my business, most of the time, day to day, I'm thinking about something related to the business, whether it's a client, whether it's a campaign I'm running, whether it's my podcast, whatever it is, there's something on my mind. And I believe, and there's not a lot of research that I have to support this, but just through my own experience, I believe that the subconscious brain works in a very different way to the conscious brain. And what I mean by that specifically is if you've ever kind of had one of those light bulb moments or those ideas, or you've woken up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my God, that's the solution to the thing that I've been trying to work on. I believe that's our subconscious brain kind of processing the information that we've been feeding it. But I don't think that it can work when our conscious brain is constantly thinking. And when I see this happen the most, I don't know if you've ever had this, but you know when you're talking to someone and you're going to say something and you totally forget what you're going to say and you try really hard to think about what you're about to say and you just cannot think for the life of you. And so you just forget about it. You say, oh, it will come to me later, right? And then you carry on talking about something different and all of a sudden, boom, it pops back into your head. Well, I think that's because we stopped focusing on it and we let our brain process that information. And I believe that creativity works in a similar way. And I've read a lot of different books and I've heard lots of different accounts of this in the sense that this idea of having this creative muse where things just kind of flow to us. And so one of the main benefits that I've found of taking a month out of my business is that it gives me a totally new perspective on the business. It really gives my subconscious brain time to process information, time to think about all of those things that I've been thinking about constantly for the past 8, 12, 24 months, however long it's been, right? And by thinking about different things, by relaxing our nervous system, by taking that downtime, it allows me personally to get an insane amount of clarity on what my next steps are, what business I actually want to build. Now, I write about this a lot, and I've written a whole chapter in my new book about this idea of lifestyle design and this idea that most business owners build a business by default rather than by design. So they kind of build a business accidentally. They're good at their skill, and then they get too busy, so they have to hire help. And before they know it, they've got a team of people that they have to feed. And they're kind of stuck in this business that they didn't really consciously build. It just kind of happened. And for me, this is one of the most dangerous types of business, because you're almost like an employee without any of the benefits of being an employee. You've got the uncertainty of where the next project's going to come from. You've got the pressure of paying other people. You've got all of these kind of disadvantages of having a business without any of the advantages, which are the freedom, the financial stability. And so the pause for me is really, really important to do at least once a year, but maybe even twice a year, where you really sit back and you think about, what am I trying to build? What is my intention here? What kind of lifestyle do I want to have? Who do I want to be spending my time with? What projects really excite me? And setting that intention and setting those goals and building a strategy around that business so you don't get sucked in to something that you ideally don't really want to be doing. So that's the main benefit, but I also think it can give a lot of clarity around what is actually important and whether certain team members are a good fit for the business, and whether you want to be working in a certain way or with certain clients. It's just this real kind of refreshing way to come back to business. And I've actually seen it work a lot on my clients for people that are burnt out. So there's like 4 or 5 specific examples that I can think of where someone is like on the verge of burnout. They're like, feels like everything is going wrong. They're losing this client, this team member's sick, like, oh my God, the whole thing is falling to pieces. And the first thing that I tell them to do is take a holiday, take a week off. And they look at me like I'm insane, because they're like, how can I take a week off now with all of this stuff going on? And the truth is that that is the best time to take a holiday, because what you will realize if you do is that A, the whole business and your whole life doesn't just burn to the ground in a week. It takes longer than that. B, when you can actually switch off and just forget about it and almost just say, right, I'm just going to shut that door for 7 days, for 10 days, however long you need to take, right? And come back to it with a fresh perspective, you start to see things that you just didn't see before, because you were in this kind of fight or flight mode. You were in this constant thinking mode. You couldn't see your own blind spots. So I've seen this work really well, even just for a week, even just for a few days, just switching off, changing what you're focusing on, giving your nervous system a break and winding down. So now the kind of second part to this podcast is, how do we actually do that? If we want to take this month off, 6 weeks off, however long you want to take off, like I've got some clients that literally take full sabbaticals. They take like 6 to 8 weeks out of their business, and they've either set it up so it runs without them, or they've set it up so that their clients are okay with that. They know what's happening, and financially it works, right? And so the financial piece is a big part of it. I speak to a lot of business owners in the creative space that first of all hate money. They just don't like talking about it. They just don't like thinking about it. They would rather not deal with it. They'd rather just do their creative stuff. Now, that's never actually been me. I've always been interested in business and money, and I kind of find that stuff quite interesting. Terrible at maths, but love thinking about money because I think it's like the lifeblood of business. Without money, there is no business, right? But I see a lot of creatives not wanting to talk about that. And as a result, they're left with things like unexpected tax bills. They're left with things where like, oh, our cash flow is really tight this month. How are we going to pay our team? Oh, we're owed all this money by this client. And that often creates a lot of unnecessary stress. So the first thing that I did that allowed me to take a month off is I got really savvy with my finances. And I did a couple of things. Number one, I hired a really good accountant and bookkeeper who I met with weekly to make sure that our business was in a really good financial position. And if it ever wasn't, even if it was just slightly off, I took massive action towards that. I chased the invoice. I made more sales. I cut some costs, whatever it was. Every single month, I wanted to make sure that we made a profit. The second thing is I implemented a system called Profit First. And this system is originally by Mike Michalowicz, who's written a lot of books. But this Profit First is one of the best that I've ever read. And the concept is kind of simple. Imagine that the money comes into your account from clients. Instead of it just going into one account and you saying, cool, that's our money, and then we'll work out roughly how much tax we need to pay from that, how much we need to pay for our team, et cetera, et cetera. You actually have different buckets or different pots in your account. So one of those pots, for example, is a profit pot. And so you can allocate a percentage of that revenue to profit. Let's say it's 10% or 15%. What that means is that as soon as that payment comes into your bank account, you take 15% of that and put it directly into the profit account, not to be touched. You then have an operational expenses account, and a percentage of that goes into operational expenses. You then have an owner's pay account, how much you pay yourself. You then have a corporation tax or VAT account where your tax goes into. So every time that money comes in, it just gets filtered into those pots. And what that means is you can never have an unexpected tax bill. And it's an amazing feeling. Like every single quarter, I know exactly how much VAT I need to pay, and it's always in the account. Every single year, I know exactly how much corporation tax I need to pay, and it's in the account, right? It doesn't ever surprise me. And the key thing here is being really strict where you do not touch any of those other pots. Those pots are allocated to those things. So profit, that is the company profit. You're not allowed to touch that. Owner's pay, put your money in there so you get paid every month. Now, if you don't have enough money in the operational expenses account to pay for your expenses, it either means you're spending too much or your percentage allocations are around the wrong way. So I won't go into a whole episode about Profit First, but this has been one of the biggest shifts in my business. And it's meant that I've been able to build up a really significant cash buffer that A, gives me confidence when I'm investing in things, but B, means that I could take probably 6 to 12 months off out of my business, not including my personal savings, and not sign a single client and still be fine. And so that level of security means that I can actually afford to switch off. And even if it takes me a while to get started back up, I've got that buffer, right? And so it's really, really important for me personally, especially when it comes to kind of financial security and that feeling of financial security, that's really important. So if you don't do that, get started now. Like today's the day where you raise your standards and you say, every single month we must be cash positive and we will do whatever it takes to be cash positive. And if we're not, we need to have a proper sit down with ourselves and our team and figure out what is going on. Like we need to be super strict around this and we need to raise our standards. So that's the kind of first piece, which is making sure there's enough money in the account so you can easily switch off, not get paid that month and still be okay. The second piece is getting your team and your clients on the same page. So when you work with a new client, if it's a 6-12 month contract, as an example, and you know that that time off is going to fall within those periods, letting them know up front, hey, by the way, just to let you know, in August every year, we take the month off. That means there's no client delivery work. That means there's no X, Y, and Z. Like, don't worry. In July, we do, these steps to ensure that things still flow in August. And maybe, you can't do it totally. So maybe there still has to be one team member that's pulling some strings or whatever to keep things moving, depending on what kind of business that you have. Or, if it's more of a project-based business, you just tell your clients, hey, we just take August off and that's it. No money comes out of your account. Projects don't get shipped. August just gets taken off and you give it to your team and you give it to yourself. And it probably sounds and feels like a really big risk, but once you actually do it, I think you will see the benefits and you will realize how incredibly important it is and what it actually gives you in the long run to grow your business. And you'll ask yourself why you haven't been doing it up until this point. So the second part of this is kind of getting your team on the same page. The third part is knowing like when you're going to do it and having that date set almost from the beginning of the year so you can't keep moving it. I speak to a lot of people and they're like, oh, I'm going to take a holiday soon, just like when this happens and when that moves and the kids are at school and blah, blah, blah. And there's always something, right? So one of the things I learned from one of my mentors early on is at the beginning of the year, plan out our campaigns throughout the year. but we also plan out our holidays. When am I going to take time off as a founder? When am I actually going to have some of this downtime? And get it in the diary and work to it, like make it happen. Don't say, oh, if this project doesn't come through, or if this happens or that happens. It's like, no, we're going to make this work. This is the date that we're closing down. This is for how long, and we're going to let everybody know. So to actually work towards that date. So I just wanted to record a really short episode about this, I guess, because it's been so impactful for me and my business. It's given me so much clarity. It's given me so much confidence, this renewed sense of energy. And I've got a really good idea of like where I'm going now and where I want to take my business and what it looks like and who I want to work with. And that clarity is contagious and that confidence is contagious. Daniel Priestley calls it with or without you energy. It's like I'm moving towards this thing, whether you're with me or not. And hey, if I don't sign new clients for the next few months, like things are still good. And it gives me that confidence to keep pushing forwards, even without clients. And so that's where that kind of with or without you energy comes in. If you've got questions about this, or you want to know a little bit more about how I took the month off or anything that comes up for you, I would love to hear from you. The best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. Just search for Matt with 2 T's, Essam, spelled E-S-S-A-M, and send me a message, connect with me, say, hey, I listened to that episode, thought it was really interesting, or I didn't think it was interesting, or that's all right for you, you can do that, but I've got these challenges. Let me know your thoughts. I love connecting with listeners. I love getting messages on LinkedIn about these episodes and about these concepts. It also helps me to create more content, so I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, either on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you listen to this, do just hit that subscribe button. It really helps to signal to the platform that people are enjoying this, they're finding the content valuable, and it helps us to reach more people. My name is Matt Essam. This is the Creative Courage Podcast. Thanks for listening. See you next week.